For years, they have dominated at countless Comic-Cons. Now they are committed to bringing the experience back in a whole new way. There's only one place to get your comics and collectibles and chat live with the two greatest showmen in modern comics. So kick back, bust out your keyboard, and get ready to call it as you see it. You're watching Kicking It with Onrie and Kevin, the live shopping show.
Well, actually, you're not watching Kicking It with Onrie and Kevin, the live shopping show. I need to come up with a new intro for this. And we're going to do something different because, guys, you're watching Live with Onrie. I'm your host, Onrie Copen. This is the last episode of the show. We made it to 75, episode 75. I can't believe it. Hang on a second. I was supposed to have something here. Well, I'll bring it on in a second. But I got a great guest for you guys today. And here's the thing. I'm not shutting down my concept of interviewing creators. I still plan on doing this. I'm just upping my game here. That's what I'm all about. And rather than simply interview these creators, what I want to do going forward is actually give these creators a chance, give you guys a chance to actually buy these creators' works. And however we're going to work that out, basically the way it's going to work is this. I'm going to invite a creator to come on my show. Prior to them coming on the show, I'm actually going to buy their book. I'm actually going to read their book. I'm going to get ready for the interviews that I have with them. And then their books will be for sale while we're having the interviews. And you guys have seen these little ticker symbols that I have over here. That will have all the information. I'm going to, I'm working on this now. By next week, we're going to figure this all out and get it all going. We got Jack, we got Mike in the house. We got a full house right now. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm bringing on our special guest. Everybody, please join me in welcoming Mr. STEF WILSON. Steph, how you doing, brother?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Thanks for being on the show, brother.
No, thanks for having me, man. This is like a real show. So you've got a reach, man. You've got an impact on social media, man.
Well, I agree with you. And we're talking about those sticker symbols before we went live. And I'm just going to put one out here that you are totally cool with.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to engage with you guys today. So, feel free to comment away. Steph is here to chat with you guys as well.
Hey, Mike. Sorry.
Please go ahead. This is what it's all about. This is what we're doing right now. So, Steph, I'm going to kick this off with a question for you, my brother.
Go ahead, man.
How did you get into this world of comics and just in general art? Like, what's your background like?
So I was an HR executive, like corporate suit and tie, getting companies to employee engagement strategy and stuff like that. So I was working with companies like that. And on the side, I was moving frequently. And one day I'm like, why am I moving all this stuff? Like Dungeons and Dragons stuff I had from when I was a kid and everything else like that. So I started selling all that stuff on eBay. And boy, did people like buying it. So when I sold through all that stuff, I was addicted to selling. And I'm sure you know what it's like when you're slinging books. You get addicted to selling. And my wife, I said, I got nothing left. My wife goes, well, why don't you try selling some of your sketches, like your Dungeons and Dragons style sketches or comic sketches? Because, I'd like to draw. I always like to draw. So I did. I sold one for probably $10. That guy made a killing. So I started selling sketches on eBay. Did that for like 7 years or so. And at some point, we decided, my wife was like, are you going to quit? I mean, I was making enough money off of eBay just selling fan art. She's like, are you going to do this or like either do it or don't, And so I got onto Instagram. I set up a website. Instagram did not like my website. It took me forever to figure it out because it's Bad Carry Studios. So the website was badcarry.com. Oop, shameless plug. Instagram assumed that was a porn site. So they blocked me. Like they just shut me down. And you can't get anything out of Instagram. They're like the big mystery. They're 10 times worse than Facebook. So anybody who complains about Facebook, you haven't met Instagram yet. But anyway, so I
concur with that, by the way.
Right? It's a freaking
every new platform. It's like, hey, we need a new social media site.
and there's absolutely no information. It's like the CIA of social media. It's like, oh, we don't talk about shadow bans. Could you let me freaking know what it is already? But anyway, so I went onto Facebook, and I deleted my personal Facebook account, and I set up my art account. I figured an artist profile on Facebook, and I started posting my fan art there as I was selling it on eBay. And then I started selling more off of Facebook, and then all of a sudden, Ron Zabala from Patriotica sent me a message, and he said, I just got a message, and the messenger said, how much do you charge for a cover? And I like an idiot, I messaged him back, I go, I don't do sketch covers, because at the time I wasn't. It was such a hassle to have somebody mail you a cover, hopefully it doesn't get damaged, that kind of stuff. So I like an idiot, without even checking who he was, I just messaged him back, oh, I don't do sketch covers. He's like, no, a real cover. And I'm like, I think my wife heard me scream from upstairs. I'm like, this guy wants me to do a comic cover. So it was Ron Zabala who dragged me out into the world and said, hey, you want to do a comic cover? He never actually did that cover, which is amazing. But I submitted art. He paid me for it. And shortly thereafter, somebody, Joey Buku from Buku Comics, reached out to me for a retailer variant and gave me my first cover. And then all of a sudden, I was in comics. Wasn't planned, but
yeah,
kind of stumbled in.
It's interesting. I was just listening to an interview between Ross Ritchie and Brian Azzarello. And for those of you guys who haven't checked that out, it's fantastic. He takes all the creators that are contributing to Boom, and he gives them like these really in-depth interviews. So he had Brian Azzarello on there, and Brian Azzarello like had no interest in like getting into comics. Like you could just see it. And I've interviewed Azzarello before at a live event, and he would give me like one-word answers. He's like, why would you want to work in comics, like from being a kid? Like what, for them, it's just like, I think it's a different thing. And I didn't understand it at first. I was actually kind of pissed that he was giving me one-word answers.
Right.
And then after I watched this interview that he had with Ross Ritchie, I was like, I kind of get it. Because if you're a writer, you got all these like voices in your head, like everybody's got their kind of like stigma kind of a thing. And it's not like it's a bad thing. It's just, it makes us who we are. And it allows us to bring out the best parts of ourselves. Right. So, but at the same time, I could imagine that like being shut down in so many ways, like, being like Instagram, like saying like, and they're not the CIA, they're the KGB.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Right. Because there's no method or rhyme or reason to their actions. No. And in addition, it's all in Russian. So even if you did figure out what they were saying, you wouldn't understand it.
Well, to kind of go on my point is, here you are, you're a business, like you're trying to make a living through your artwork. In order to do that, you need to be able to promote.
It's exposure.
Yeah. And here's the thing, your artwork is sensational. And it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, there's nude art everywhere.
Right.
And when you get shut down like that, it's got to be somewhat discouraging.
Sure.
So how do you manage that?
Here's the interesting thing too, because like I said, it's a mystery. A lot of the information that's out there. I watched a wonderful girl, Sadie, who's an Instagram influencer. I watched 2 hours of a YouTube video with her. She's an absolutely adorable girl. She's like about 19 or 20, and has millions of followers, etc. Everybody who's gotten anywhere on Instagram has just figured it out as they went along. Like there are no true answers. There's no Instagram guide. And that's what makes it worse. Is like when you're trying to grow your business on a platform, it'd be nice to understand what you can and can't do, or what you should and shouldn't do. And Instagram is a total clamshell about all of that. You know what I mean? So I don't think I've ever been shadow banned. I honestly don't think I've ever been, and I've gone through several of them. I don't think I've ever been shadow banned for nudity. It's because I'm not following what their bots are looking for. In other words, you only know, like somebody asked me, how do you know you're shadow banned? Because Instagram doesn't even admit it exists. But when you go from 150 followers a day, which I sometimes have, to all of a sudden 12 followers a day, I know I've been shadow banned. It just means they've restricted my content out to a larger viewing audience. But it can be anything from using the wrong hashtag. Oh, side note, they don't tell you what those are. It can be sharing too much, sharing consistently using the same hashtags. There's like 100 different things that can get you a shadow ban, and they won't admit what any of those things are. It's just they just suddenly restrict your content to a larger audience for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden your followers start shooting up again. So you know you went through a shadow ban. And at first it was really discouraging, but when you get to the big numbers, I can survive a shadow ban. Like, my numbers don't go down. Like, my numbers will always increase. They just increase more when I'm not getting screwed by Instagram. So,
And you know, this is interesting because, man, this opens up so many doors. But I want to go on to another point here, because me personally, from like thinking as both, we're both salespeople, right?
Right.
We both sell stuff.
This is
and
business.
What we're selling. The point is we go out there and we feed off of that energy. That's what, at least for me, that's what allows me to be creative.
Yeah.
And feel good about being creative.
Right. Exactly. It's the reward for
Yeah.
The creativity is fun, but it's like, it's a validation when it sells.
Exactly. And not only that, but if it's not selling, then you don't really have validity. At least that's kind of like the standard. And of course,
yeah.
You know, because I mean, think about it. Anybody can make comics. Anybody can make comics, but can you survive in comics? That's the question. Not everybody can do that.
Exactly.
And you know, that's the psyche that I think we're all kind of like faced with all the time. Like, you know, you had mentioned your corporate background.
Right.
You know, like I worked corporate for 10 years. And HR in particular, like that's a very kind of like rigid line over there, because you're basically the person that people go to when they're not happy, or they need some readjustment or realigning or whatever the case is. It's so you worked in HR?
Dude, but that's the thing. I was in management. And then I went into HR just because it was the part of management that appealed to me, which is the people side of it. Because management, if you manage people, the business runs itself. And I was always a people manager to begin with. So when I went into HR, I spent X amount of time in your basic compliance HR, your basic functional HR. And then I bopped as soon as I could into strategy and executive strategy. And what was the most fascinating thing to me was engagement. Employee engagement in the workplace, creating workplace environments that were engaging to employees, because engaged employees work without supervision. They do a fantastic job just because they want to. And so that was the part that fascinated me. So it's very rigid and structured as far as the legal ramifications of what you do. But man, you can really build incredible businesses just by building up your people.
Absolutely. All right, we got some comments here.
Comments. Let's not forget.
David Moore. Steph, why do you refuse to step?
He read the ticker tape. Nobody reads the ticker tape.
Actually, David Moore reads everything. Everything. David Moore is the man.
Well, then, man. So anyway, why do I refuse to step in Canada? Because the only people who invite me to Canada is like Calgary. And I make jokes all the time on social media, and I love the idea of Canada, but it's so freaking far, and it seems cold. And so they invite me to Calgary, and I couldn't tell you where Calgary is on the map. I'm sorry. Like Nicole, my Canadian friend, she's like in British Columbia or something. I'm like, is Calgary over there? No. Like, nobody can tell me where the damn thing is. It's in Manitoba or something. I don't know. Yeah, chances of me going to Calgary, 0. You know, but the chances of me going to C2E2 in February are going to be 0 too, because I ain't going anywhere near Chicago in freaking February.
Oh no, I'm in Chicago, and it is, well, it's actually, it's weird. I think it's like 40 degrees out right now.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, I think, and that has nothing to do with global warming.
Okay, no, but I always felt I was in Chicago in the winter, and the freaking city streets are like a goddamn icebox. It's absolutely horrendous with that wind, the freaking lake wind. It's like, no, I'm not doing that. So,
but you know why they call it the Windy City? It has nothing to do with the fact that we have horrible wind. It's because of the politics.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Oh,
yeah.
That's hysterical.
We have one of the most corrupt. I live in one of the most corrupt states. I pay really, really high real estate taxes to live in this wonderful state, but it's home.
Right.
You know, it's like, what are you going to do? And just pack up and leave? You know, like
Right.
it's not such an easy thing. All right. So where are your origins? Where are you mentioned you were in Jersey now, but like
Born in Jersey.
Born in Jersey.
Born in Jersey, lived in Florida for a while, came back to Jersey, moving to Cape Cod in a month.
Moving to Cape Cod, really?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I know. My wife used to spend her summers there. Her grandmother was from there. So she's been dying to get back there. So we finally set it up.
All right. So let's get back into comics for a minute.
Go ahead.
Not for a minute. I guess we should, kind of.
Wait. I got a question here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. Well, no. Go ahead.
The problem is as much as you're on 24 hours a day, I can't believe I haven't bumped into you until like a month ago.
I know, dude. What the heck?
Where the frig were you? I mean, you're on 24 hours a day. How did I not see
No,
you?
I wasn't though. I wasn't for a long time. I was just doing live with Onrie. That was pretty much my
That's
20.
it? Oh.
Yeah, because when COVID shut down, when conventions stopped happening, and I was at conventions before all this.
Okay.
And I was not using social media unless absolutely necessary.
Okay. Because I'm like, where did this guy come from?
Yeah. I just came out of nowhere. Well, I've been around. It's just and I use social media, but again, it's like I get really irritated when I have to stop and read something. Like, I got a webcam.
Right.
And the default on it is a fishbowl lens. Why would they do that?
Right.
Why can't be the default? And why can't you just turn it off? You can't.
Really?
So, and then I'm just typing in on Google, how do I, remove the fishbowl lens? And I get like, first you have to go here, and then you have to do this, and then you have to go into this thing. And then some other guy was saying, you have to open up the webcam, take out the lens, and put in another lens. I'm like, I'm not going to do this. I don't have time for that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not, and that's technology. That's how I feel about Kickstarter. That's how I feel about social media. That's how I feel about everything. I am dumb when it comes to this stuff because I don't have patience.
I'll be honest. Carrie had to show me how to copy and paste the StreamYard link. I've never freaking done it. She always did it for me. She's like, here, you're on StreamYard. They're going to have you on a show in about 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, frig. And she puts it up there. So she had to show me how to do this because she's away right now. No, here's the thing. But Onrie, this is what you got to do. And I know you're doing that because you're already talking about rebranding and stuff like that. See, I didn't go to conventions. I didn't sell fan art at conventions. I didn't sell comics at conventions. I went to one convention before COVID shut everything down. I went to my first ever convention. So excited. Talked to Bill McKay for a while. Had a great convention. It was like a one-day event in northern New Jersey. Had a lot of fun. Had everything planned. I've got these totes. I've got banners. I've got racks. I'm ready for conventions. And COVID comes along. So here's the thing. I was okay before conventions. I've certainly been more than okay since they got shut down. What artists got to realize is you got to be able to pivot. I was lucky because I never planned on really doing conventions. And Carrie's like, you got to do conventions. I'm like, I don't want to do conventions. They're going to make me go to Calgary. I'm like, I don't want to do these things. So social media is a 24-hour convention if you do it right.
Yes. And that's what I'm learning how to do now. But you see, what you mentioned, pivoting. I pivot very slow. I'm like a bull in a china shop.
No, you got to pivot fast.
I got to pivot fast.
And you got to pivot fast, and you got to pivot right to the opportunity every time it pops up. Dude, some guy reached out to me for card art, and I was like, I don't do small card art. He's like, no, I want to use your art on game cards. And I'm like, dude, the price I gave him so I could be on it's called Card Grinders. It's like a CCG RPG set. You play cards like Magic the Gathering. It's called Card Grinders. There's like 50 expansion sets out there. There's 2 of them that are exclusively my art. I gave him a ridiculous price, but now I'm on a CCG card game. It was like a total pivot, a total change in the size of the art I had to do and everything else to make it work. At the time, Carrie wasn't coloring my work, so I had to reach out to Lindsay McNabb up in Canada, get her to color my work, Like, it was just this total pivot, and suddenly I'm on a freaking card game. It was like the coolest thing ever. So, yeah, you got to pivot fast.
Absolutely. And it took me. You know why it took me so long? Because I didn't know who I was anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like for me, it's about being in front of people, and I like that. I like that engagement.
Yeah.
And this is so different. And honestly, it was when I interviewed Tom Hutchinson that I started to kind of like understand that, like, because I met Tom before. I'd seen him at a convention before, back when he was doing them more frequently, and then he just disappeared. So I figured, he's probably off doing something different. You know, like people come and go in comics all the time. But I knew he was still in it because I'd seen his work pop up. People were talking about him and all this stuff. But I didn't know that he had been. He had stopped doing conventions long before COVID happened, and he was making it. And I was like, wow, because he decided to focus on it. And Tom's a visionary, in my opinion. I mean, he's always very forward thinking. So how did the relationship with him start up? But before we go into that,
That's a good story, actually.
Yeah, I want to hear that. We have
Tanya.
Tanya is saying, did you say pivot? Yes, he did say pivot.
Like from Friends with the couch. Pivot.
Yes.
Pivot.
My wife and I, we watch Friends all the time. We love it.
So you're going to put a little more thought into your new show name? Man, yes. When I saw your show was Live with Onrie, I messaged Chuck literally in 2 seconds. I think while he was on the show with you, I think I sent him a message. I'm like, boy, he put a lot of thought into that name, didn't he?
No, I really didn't. That's why I'm going to change it. I really put thought into this one. So, Sean, it's not dead yet, okay? The show isn't ending. It's just being rebranded as yeah.
It's like when a furniture store goes out of business. They
actually go out of exactly
business. They just put the out of business signs up and then they come back.
And we're out of business, guys. But actually, what we're doing is we're changing it to virtual signings with Onrie, where I'm going to have creators come on, like I was saying at the beginning of the episode. So it's not over until it's over. And that's another interesting aspect. But now I want to hear about you and Tom Hutchinson. How did you guys connect? Tell me about that relationship, because.
And this is the thing, like Chuck did a live, quick live thing the other day about how you get into the business, because there's a lot of people who are like, oh, how do I get into the business?
It was fantastic. I loved it.
Right? Wasn't that a great piece?
It was great. It was awesome.
And here's the thing. There is no one way to get into it. You know, it's like when people reach out to me because of my Instagram. Oh, how do you get so many followers on Instagram? Look, if you're looking for a one sentence answer, you're not getting it. It's multiple layers of complexity, you know? And it's the same thing. To get into comics is multiple layers of complexity. A really freaking live show.
Really freaking live.
Show.
And we got
much better than Chuck's live show with Onrie. It's a little long. It's a little wordy.
Got me beat on the intro because he worked Canadian bacon into his intro. I couldn't do that.
See, and that's a marketing pitch right there. But so no, here's the thing. There is no good way to get into comics. What happened was I was following Tom because I've always loved Big Dog Inc. I love the art on their books.
It's phenomenal.
You know, and I'm not a comic buyer. I don't just like buy books like constantly, you know, like some people do. I just love the art on BDI books. So one day he posted a picture of a banner of Joan of Arc. And I just commented because, again, here's a little tip for those of you who are not succeeding on social media with your business. It's all about engagement. It's all about interaction. So if you're not commenting on people's posts and responding to people's posts, Facebook algorithms are not going to reward you with the content you need to grow your business. Okay. So anyway, on Tom Hutchinson's post, a guy I never met, I commented that, boy, I would like to draw really cool things like that. Something about that, something fancy things like that or something like that. Because at the time I was doing fan art. And he put it, his response in the comment was, go ahead. So I did. And I drew it on Bristol. I drew it as line art. And I showed it to him. I think in the comments still. We were still in the comments. And he gave me edits on fan art. That was the hysterical thing. Tom Hutchinson edited my fan art. Like, okay, that's fan art. I like your fan art, but by the way, this is what you screwed up. Like, like free fan art. By the way, I'm telling you what you did wrong. But here's the thing. I fixed it, and then I went. It was because I had a colorist color it for me, and I said to him, "Hey, this could be exposure." And when I sent him the colors, he commented that the wings were too dark. They're not supposed to be transparent. They're supposed to be metal or something. So he actually edited my fan art, and when I sent it back to him, shortly thereafter, he said, "How about a cover in July?" And the best part about it was, and this is why I love about Tom. He's really good at matching talent. When he said, "How about a cover in July?" he paired me with Sanju, which is like a total freaking bucket list for an artist. You know what I mean? To have Sanju color your work. Sanju and I were kind of friends in comments, and I said something about, I would love it if you would color my work, Sanju. And Tom picked up on that and said, well, consider it done. And he hooked me up with Sanju. I was like, holy freaking hell, this is crazy. But that's it. There's no one good way into the business. There's multiple pathways. If you're not taking all of them, you're missing opportunities.
I agree with that 100%. And, that's the one thing I really respect about Tom is he's also one of the most approachable people too. Mm-hmm. And here's something I want to give you props for. It's one thing to, get critiqued. And we all get critiqued. We all get shit on at some point. And someone looks at our work and says, this is crap, But it's the constructive feedback that allows us to grow. Tom always gives constructive feedback. If you message Tom about anything and you're serious about business, he will give you serious business answers. And he's not going to just look at it from what he has to gain from it. Right. It's really about helping you, because I think that there's a circle effect or a chain effect. You help one person, it all comes back to you in some way. And really, social media is really kind of like what allows us to do that.
Right.
And the one thing too, it's like Tom kind of, in a lot of ways, probably without realizing it, he really pulled me out of a dark tunnel that I was down, because it's like we use social media for so much now. It's our gateway into the world. Right. And of course, I was waiting for conventions to come back last year, and I was getting so sucked down this whole political going on. And then here's this guy who's like, yeah, I'm doing great on social media. I use it to sell my books.
Yeah. Well, think about it.
You can do it too.
How much is the table in front of you costing you right now? How much are the travel expenses for you to
Nothing.
stay?
It's been paid off. It's been paid off long ago. Zero.
You're starting off at zero. How much does it cost you to broadcast? Zero. It is a net sum game. Any dollar you make on social media is a profit, because there are no expenses to it. There are literally no expenses. So it's a great market just because there's no costs. No, that's the thing about Tom. Tom's good at pivoting. And the funny thing is, he's very receptive. Like, I shot an idea, something about a hardcover book or something. He's like, oh, I'm already doing it. Not too long after that, I shot him an idea, which I can't talk about because in case he actually does it. And he was like, oh, I don't know if that would work. And then 5 minutes later, where did those come from? And I'm like, oh, here's the website. Like, so he's always open to what's next. What's the next possibility? What's the next market? What's the next thing that's going to sell? That's pivoting. You know what I mean? It's just being able to not think inside the box and see every single possible thing as an opportunity.
And I think honestly, that's one of the greatest skills I've learned as a dealer in the short time that I've been doing this, because it's all about pivoting. It's like, you're not just selling one thing, you're selling everything. Like, you can't just buy your books you don't buy as an owner or as a dealer, you don't buy based on your own taste. I mean, you can acquire stuff based on your own taste because maybe you'll have more fun selling it. But if someone's looking for something you're not into, like, My Little Pony, you got to have an answer, for that. You got to find a way to stock My Little Pony and make sure that those people have it. And, Tom has that background in that. And I was just like, wow, and that's what this is all about. And another thing too is, I think it's not just about pivoting. It's also knowing where to take that calculated risk and jump in on something. And that was something I was talking to him about as well. Is obviously, in order to be a dealer, you have to constantly buy things. Right. You're not like, it's not just a matter of like you sell and you have this endless
inventory.
Yeah, you have to stock up on stuff, and you got to know how to buy smart. And he gave me some pointers on some things I could do. He helped coach me. So And I know.
Dude, and here's the thing. He gets also, and that's the thing is, I have no problem sharing information about how I grow my Instagram or
Sure.
The biggest problem I have is when people want like a one sentence answer. It's just annoying because you're not. Hey, Ed, you're not getting the ramifications of the depth of social media if you think there's a quick answer. But if you're going to ask me, like, seriously on how to grow your brand on Instagram or Facebook or something, don't ask me about Twitter. I'm still figuring it out. But I'm going to share that information because I'm going to share that information because growing the entire comics business, we're all in this together. It's been my phrase since the beginning. We're all in this together, literally. The bigger this industry grows, or the better this industry grows, the better it is for all of us. So it doesn't help me for some other artists not to be able to get exposure because I'm not competing with other artists. The more people out there selling their art and connecting with fans and stuff like that, the bigger the industry is going to grow. So with independence, this is not Marvel and DC. This is independence. And in independence, the more people in the room, the better the party. It's that simple. It's really
Absolutely.
that simple. And if an exciting guest like Bill McKay comes in the room, yeah, he's a more celebrated guest than I am, but he pumps up the room. This is not a bad thing. You know, it brings the excitement level up for everybody.
Absolutely. And you're 100% right about the engagement aspect of everything too, because that is what it's about. It's about putting yourself out there and realizing, and this is something that Jesse James taught me a couple weeks ago when I had him on the show, is you're selling around the clock. This is a 24-hour convention.
Yep.
And people buy stuff all the time. Like I just decided I had some books I had to sign for people, for customers. And I figured, all right, you know what? I'm just going to jump online for 30 minutes.
Might as well do it live.
Just do it live, right? And sure enough, I didn't sell one. I sold 2 more sets of my books.
Right.
From, I didn't have to do any work. I certainly didn't have to get up and, do anything or present anything. But, it gives you a chance to engage with people and do all this stuff. So it really is the future,
right.
in terms of like where things are going. So tell me a little bit more about the Artist Alley Shopping Network and what. You wanted to say something.
Yeah. Let's talk about something because I got to get this out because I haven't had a chance to really talk to you right before the show. Okay, so they're comic creators and they're sitting around and they're like, I'm going to make a superhero comic. I'm going to make a Western comic. I'm going to make a sci-fi comic. Who sits around and says, I'm going to make a comic about a Korean admiral?
A guy wants to make superhero comics.
Son of a bitch, man. Where did you come up with this?
I didn't come up with it. It actually happened.
I know, but what made you make it a comic? I just
because, again, how many superhero comics are there?
I know, but I'm saying what made you think of it?
What made me think of it? Well,
what made you say, I'm going to make this a comic?
I was really intimidated at first. I appreciate you asking that question.
Because it has to be one of the most unique titles in 10 years.
I appreciate that. It's been out for 10 years now. This is its uniqueness has long since worn off. But I guess to answer your question quickly, I mean, it's like you were mentioning pivoting, right?
Right.
And I wanted to write superhero comics. That's just always what I wanted to do. And I thought that's what I wanted to do, I guess. Right. But what did I want? I've always been a Spider-Man fan, so naturally getting into comics, I want to work on Spider-Man. Well, that's not just going to happen because you want to work on Spider-Man. You have to climb a lot of ladders and a wall or whatever the case is. But you got to prove that you know how.
By the way, David is right. Nice, David.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, this is what I loved so much about doing Live with Onrie, and what we're going to continue to see on virtual signings with Onrie is we're learning from each other. I am learning from Steph right now, who's been doing this, and the things that he's telling me today are all going to reflect on strategies in the future, things that I am.
And I'm hoping people watching can learn too. That's the whole point.
Absolutely.
And you know what? And part of it too is people watching. These are my friends. There's John Rupp. Hi, John. And sorry, I didn't say hi to Tom.
Dude, no, don't worry. We're here to engage. So please,
I mean, I do live shows for the fans, but we'll get to that. Back to the Admiral. I'm going to write a comic about a Korean admiral.
Well, because I wanted to stand apart from every.
Freaking did that.
Yeah, I did, and it made me have to really freaking pivot. I mean, because first off, you bring this book to a retailer, they're not going to open it.
Nope.
Forget about it. They're just not going to open it, and it's not because it's a bad book. Some of them might open it,
Right.
But it's not Spider-Man. It's not Batman. It's not something that you easily sell right away. Until
in other words, you decided to do a book that, from the surface, has zero marketability, except maybe in Korea.
Yeah, it may be in Korea, but the thing about it for me was, if I could get in front of people and I could just tell them and give them a quick pitch about the book, show them some of the artwork, just make it real fast. Like here's the artwork for my book. There, you see, it's not just like some standard comic or whatever. I'm not trying to lure you in. My odds now have increased, and I've taken this book with no dealer wanted, no publisher wanted, and I sold over 100,000 copies.
Because
and it's a matter, because you had to work. But when I don't have that engagement, and see, that's still something that's hard for me. Like, I would say right now, this January has been the best January I've had for Yisun Shin in a long time, like 5 years, because I finally I started to understand what it means to get out there, kind of like what you did with your with your art. It's you go out there, you put yourself out there, and now people know that you exist. And a lot of people who shop with me, they're not buying up Yisun Shin right away, and I'm not going to force Yisun Shin on them, because it's just not how this works.
But that's the thing is, when you were slinging comics, you have to be slinging your own projects at the same time, even if it's in the ticker tape on the bottom or something. Like, you have to move your brand forward with everything you do. That's the key. You know what I mean? Like, if you're selling Spider-Man comics and that banner, the Yisun Shin banner, isn't behind you, you're missing an opportunity. Like, for somebody to say, hey, what's that on the banner? That looks cool. Boom, there's another fan. There's another book.
And it's happened. We've made a lot of sales that way. And that's always a great thing. But to me, I get just as excited now hunting for my customers when they're like, hey, Onrie, you got this? I'll find it. I mean, I live in an area with the best thing about where I live is I live in an area that has a lot of comic shops that stock a lot of stuff, but not a lot of foot traffic, because I'm out in the boonies.
Right.
So I can get access to stuff very quickly. And, now we're actually opening up an account with Diamond and Lunar. And once we have that, we'll be able to get people whatever they need when they need it. But I mean, this was definitely, Yisun Shin has been it's a labor of love, I guess. Because everybody told me it wasn't going to go anywhere, and I made a career out of it.
Well, and kind of like Alton, you made it a success by putting the boots on the ground. There are a lot of people who create a comic, hop on Kickstarter, and expect to make 10K. I don't know. Alton was selling his comics in comic book shops long before Kickstarter. Like, did the boots on the ground, the hard work, the conventions, the hard work, the little conventions with 20 vendors kind of things. He was just doing the footwork. You got to put the work behind the project sometimes. And some of the people get on the Kickstarter don't realize there's a reason some people are successful on Kickstarter and some aren't.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And here's the thing, Steph. I have not. When I look at my Kickstarter compared to like other people who've done Kickstarters, I'm not happy with the results. I look at my Kickstarters and I'm like, yeah, that's got to change. And these kind of engagements are where it really starts. But one thing I want to say about Alton, and those of you guys, Alton's books sell out everywhere. They've sold out on our show. Vampires of New Jersey.
They sell out in the comic book stores.
Everywhere. His
hey,
books sell out.
Sorry.
And no, it's okay. I wanted to say hi to Tobias George. He's all the way from Australia.
Cool.
Yeah. I have met this guy at San Diego Comic-Con. He is a friend of Jamie Newbold, who is the owner of Southern California Comics, and a good friend of mine. And whenever I do San Diego Comic-Con, that's always that one show where I don't have a booth. I just rent a 2x2 space from an actual dealer. And so I learned a lot about dealing just from being around him. But, Tobias is actually a cop from Australia.
Right.
And he fought, Chinese gangsters and stuff like that. Like,
Right.
And he, he's just like this really gruff Australian guy. And Australian people, they're really strong.
I think it's the bugs they have to fight off.
Well, because like apparently
the bugs are very large.
The bugs are very large, and apparently Australia was like a place where they used to send criminals.
That's how we settled. Yeah, it was a colony, penal colony.
And like no Escape, the Ray Liotta movie. It was like that was Australia.
Basically.
And they developed weapons over there, like the boomerang.
Well, I think it's funny because they don't have the English language there. They say they do, but it ain't Queen's.
No, that's not English.
Thing is, it's hysterical.
I don't know what that kind of poor excuse for a language is.
And the words, no, they just make up their own words. They have their own words. It's not English anymore. It's not as bad as Calgary, but
I don't know what you're talking about.
I have a fan in Australia. She's like,
about.
"Oh, you're gonna come out to cons in Australia?" I'm like, "Do yourself a favor. Pick up the globe, spin it around to the Pacific Ocean. If you hold it up a certain way, you cannot see land. That's how big that ocean is, and you're on the other side of it. Like, it's literally on the other half of the world. It would almost be shorter to cut across Asia to get there."
Look at this, Tobias. See, you came in, and now we're talking all about your wonderful. They speak Australian.
Yeah, but all my Australian fans correct me and tell me they're speaking English. I'm like, you're not speaking English. Trust me, you're not speaking English.
But you see, this is exactly what I'm talking about, though, is the fact that we can engage not just people that are
worldwide.
It's worldwide.
You don't have to be at a table and somebody have to pay to come in, to get into the center, to travel to the center, to come and see you, kind of thing. Yeah, no. This opens up a much bigger field. And it makes it more accessible for people who can't make it to cons all the time.
I agree. All right.
And you know what? EBAS may stay on the East Coast unless Zenoscope has something going on special in Philadelphia. So if you're an East Coast fan of EBAS, you're never going to get to the West Coast to see the guy in person, but you can see him live through social media. So.
And here's the best part. I didn't think about this until just today, but here's your certificate of authenticity. If I'm signing your stuff for you live while you watch, and I say, hey, it's for you. There you go. Just send a link to CGC, and there you go. I mentioned your name. It's me. Yep. And if they need a certificate of authenticity, I'll generate it. If you're going to get your stuff graded,
right?
Why do we need the witnesses now?
That's just a sham. That's just a way to make money with the witnessing thing.
Really is. They're saying it's like gambling. I really haven't gotten into slabs much. But it's one of those things where, if you know how to make it work, and I know Tom knows how to make it work. So he's definitely somebody I talk. I mean, I have a few friends that I talk to about it, but
see, Tanya knows. See that?
Tanya seems to know everything.
See, with the Kickstarter, it's about the covers. I always say it's about the covers. If you haven't heard me joke about it,
I think Steph has found I think this means that I'm going to have to ask you, assuming you're available, of course.
I'm always available.
Oh, you're always available. Well, then I guess I'm just going to have to ask you to do a variant cover for my next Kickstarter.
I definitely have
to. And I want to because I actually have a really cool idea.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's got it. Yeah, because I ended up getting the one with Chuck because I slung an idea at him. And he liked it so much, he's like, I got to do this. Like, he wasn't planning on doing a sexy variant or whatever. But, so yeah, we got to do one. And it's got to be better than his Belial cover. That's all. It's the only minimum. That's
a tough act to follow. I got to be honest with you.
I love Chuck. But, no, Tanya's hinting it. I always joke that the comic is filler pages for the cover. Because I'm a cover artist. You know what I mean? If I was a writer, I'd say, who cares about the covers? Like, people don't understand with social media, you got to play up what you are and what you do, Like, people always comment about boobs I draw and everything else like that. I'm not going to go against that. I'm going to play into that. That's what I'm known for. Take it and run with it, So I'm known to be a cover artist. So I always say, like, when somebody says, oh, it's a great story, I'm like, what's that? Is that behind the cover? Is that inside the cover? Do people look at those things?
Well, here's the thing. I always saw it as, okay, this is just a way to sell more of the same thing, which I was against. Right. there's certain moral codes that we sometimes develop in comics, and I saw a dealer do this. He had all these. I went over to his shop last week, and he had a sign on his door that said, "You cannot buy more than one copy of a comic because we're trying to make comics available for every person out there." And I'm like thinking to myself, dude, fuck you. You're going to buy like 20 copies. You could have ordered 50 copies of this, put 30 of them up on eBay or 40 of them up on eBay and left 5 for your customers, whatever the case is. Right. You know, don't try and tell us that we're not allowed to profit off of it just because you do that. That's how you feed your family. Right. How about you give us a chance to do the same thing here as collectors and as fans or whatever. If I want to buy 2 copies of the latest issue of Batman, that's my American right, unless somebody else has claimed it. Right. You know, but that's always how I felt about variant covers as a creator. So with Eastern Shin, I never did variant covers. Right. Never thought to me. I never even considered it. But here's the thing: not only is it a way to sell more books, more copies of the same comic, but if you can somehow tie it into a greater story, if you can make that cover do what it's supposed to do, give people a chance to see a different artist render your characters. Exactly. And B, have some way for it to kind of like promote the idea of the story. Like I got a customer who's looking for variant covers of Scream #1. Right. That's the Venom, the female symbiote. And, there's nothing special about that comic, but the variant covers look really cool. Right. And they have like a cool, unique design to them. And when you can make something like that work, that's a really special thing, Yeah, and the thing with variant covers people got to understand is, because there are people who are opposed. My power. Oh, it's dark in here. Wait, it's getting dark. It's East Coast, man. Things get dark here. Let me put a light on. Oh, geez. As I knocked the lamp over. Yeah, Tom's in Arizona, and it doesn't get dark over there. Well, I didn't even pay attention. It's getting to be that time of night, and things get darker. But I wasn't paying attention. That's funny. No, with variant covers, here's the deal with variant covers. You've got it's packaging for your comic. You've got a great story inside. You put some great art on it. Why would you put one piece of great art on it? Why not put 6 pieces of great art on it and let people choose the art that appeals to them most? Because it's everybody's like, oh, well, they only do variant covers to sell more copies of the same book. No, what you're doing is, supposing somebody loves Nay Ruffino. You have Nay Ruffino on one cover, and you have another artist and another artist, then that person who loves her work will buy that book. They'll get the thrill of getting her art on the cover plus your story. It's a win-win. Like, some people go crazy like Jim Noble, Exactly. It's a wider audience. Jim Noble will do 87 covers. I think that's crazy, but even he's talked about scaling back a bit. But you're giving your audience, and here's the other thing. What if somebody buys, would this be terrible to you? What if somebody bought your book just because they liked the cover art on it? And then maybe opened it up and read the story and liked it. That's not a bad thing. Well, the most creepy story I ever had was this one guy who's like a total perv. And he's just like straight out of his mom's basement kind of a deal. Right. And he's coming up and he's got this like really shy voice and he's like, I really love that cover. Like, I'd like to have this. And he was just really very awkward and everything. I'm like, but, I'm not going to turn him down, No, of course. And that, it's whatever it takes to get people to pick it up. And you hope that I don't believe people read comics. I think out of all the books I've sold, I would say I would be really, really happy if at least 50% of the people who bought it actually read it. Yeah, and you know what? If you're going to buy the comic, chances are the person's going to read it. Whether they like it or not, that's always a hit or miss. That's got nothing to do with somebody buying it for a variant cover. If the story appeals to somebody or not is always your risk, Like, hey, I like this enough that I can't wait for the next one to come out. That's what you're hoping for. You're hoping for that. And so if it's a variant artist that got somebody to open up your book, it's not a bad thing. Somebody open up your book. My favorite thing is I'm not a comics person. So, in fact, half the time people talk about particular comic characters, and I'm like, who? I read graphic novels, the heavy metal style hardcover graphic novels, because I love the art on that those full size books. So
I read the entire and bought the entire Second Moon series by Frazado because I saw a cover for that book. And I said, oh my God, I love Frazado's work. And it turns out there's a series of 6 books. Well, Heavy Metal sold 6 books to me. And it turns out I absolutely loved the story. But in the end, I bought it because I saw a cover that just appealed to me. You know, and I was in a comic book shop and they had one copy, hardcover copy of number 3. And I hunted down all the other copies I got them from Heavy Metal. So it's the cover that might lure somebody in, but so what? That's what you're there for. That's what it's packaging.
Absolutely. It absolutely is packaging. Now I want to, dude, the time has flown. I feel like you just got on the show.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I didn't get to ask you about Marx. What the hell's Marx, man? What is this?
It's the story of my grandpa's life.
Yeah. I want to
I
hear
had
about
a
this.
copy of it somewhere.
You have a copy? I need a copy of that, I think. I think it appeals to me already. I think I got to order a copy from you. Because I haven't seen you sell it yet.
I have this just actually went back to press. This is so Marx, this is actually the first printing, and it's,
okay, I need that. So how much? Yeah. I'm going to PayPal you. How much?
It's just $15, and
$15.
$15.
Yeah,
and it's the story of my grandfather.
Shipping?
What's up? Oh, shipping. Yeah, there's shipping too. So it's just
okay. So wait, real quick, because Carrie's grandfather died on Okinawa. My grandfather went to the prison.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I even know exactly
during World War II.
Yeah, and I know the hill he died on in the middle of a counterattack. I know everything because it's Marines. The Marines keep track of all that stuff.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we know the moment he died and where he died, and it's just. But my grandfather made it through the Pacific. Never talked about it. I don't think neither
did my grandpa did not talk about anything.
I don't think. Yeah, you know. And the Pacific was horrendous because of what they saw. I think they saw a lot of things that were just absolutely horrendous. And I think in the European theater, if you ended up getting into Germany, you probably saw things you never wanted to see. So, yeah, they didn't talk about it much. So I definitely want your book because
well, you see from the Russian standpoint, because he was a Russian soldier.
That I would love. That would be interesting.
And he was Jewish, and he fought Nazis, and he shot down Nazi airplanes.
Again, a different story. I love it.
Yeah.
You know, and I hope there's some good Russian tanks and stuff like in there.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And
my favorite comic series is the Red Star. I just absolutely.
Oh, dude, we have it from Christian Gossett.
I have to get the whole set because I don't have it now. I absolutely love that.
I got it right here for you, Red Star.
Dude.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that thing.
I got this for you too. Christian Gossett did this, and I had him. He was one of my first guests on Live with Onrie, and he had the Red Star in the background, and that was his book and everything. And I ordered it from him. I read it. It's a beautiful book.
Right.
So much Soviet influence in that.
Right.
Really.
Well, and again, you know what I loved about that story is, and again, that's what fascinates me about creators like you. You've got Soviet background, right? You got the Soviet thing going on. You take it to new technology, right? So it's like sci-fi Soviet, and then you add sorcery in. I'm like, freaking this guy's crazy. He mixed it all up. You know what I mean? Like, talk about an original idea. Like, yeah, you could have done Soviet. You could have done Soviet sci-fi, but let's throw some sorcery in there and really freaking mess everybody up. That's what I love. I love stories like that.
And it was actually this is one of the first digital comics ever made. By the way, I found that out because Brian Michael Bendis wrote the foreword to this.
Right.
And in the foreword, he's like, "I'm jealous because I should have done that."
Yeah.
But Christian Gossett who did it, and
right.
Christian has worked on so many things. He contributed so much to the Star Wars universe. I'll drop you a link to the interview I did with him. It was
cool.
Yeah, it was great, and he's one of the most approachable guys, just in general. And he's working on TV shows now, and the dude's everywhere.
What do you need for shipping? Because I'm gonna PayPal you.
I do media mail, so just send me a straight 20. Okay. And I got you on
Marks. That's cool.
Yeah. Let me get you a fresh copy of that. And
no worries.
Yeah, I got you. I appreciate that stuff.
No, man, I want to read that story, and not just because of the Soviet thing, because it's interesting to me. You know, what her grandfather went through before he died, what my grandfather went through. you know, it's something we need a perspective of. Like, I don't think people understood it, you know. You watch that first 5 minutes of Saving Private Ryan. I remember that. I looked at my wife. I'm like, "Can we turn this off for a minute?" I needed to breathe.
Well, you were mentioning Okinawa, Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah,
that was brutal.
right. And like, what these were 19-year-old kids, and you know that scene in Saving Private Ryan where he runs back to get his arm. Like, what mindset are you in that you run back to get your arm, which has come off?
I think
you know what I mean.
You're just
like,
in shock. You don't even know what's going on.
Right. What does that do to you? And so I think we need to remember what that is. You know what I mean? Like, people don't understand when we send people to the Gulf War or something like that. They don't understand what war is unless we remind them of it.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, I focused on war with a lot of my books because everybody's like, "Wow, these books are so beautiful and they're violent and this and that." Well, that's the point. War is not supposed to be a beautiful thing. It is a very ugly thing.
Never is.
It is bloody. It is disgusting. It is what we don't. It's what we want to. We want to stay in the books. We don't want it happening outside in the real world.
Right.
And I think that I think that what our grandfathers went through, I think, is unprecedented. And I hope to God we don't ever have to
do that again.
Ever again. I'd rather just stay online than have us all killing each other. You know, it's just terrible, and nothing excuses it. There's no justification for it. Well, this guy did this to me. Yeah, well, that doesn't mean that, you know, just because he bombed your house, you have to go and kill him now. That doesn't.
Yeah, and on that scale, you know, I was here for 9/11. I watched the first plume come up. I watched the second plume come up from the towers. I was over in Secaucus. So I kind of saw it as it was unfolding, but you're in shock most of the time. You're just like, what the hell's going on, kind of thing. But many years later, I went to the museum, and you see the fire truck downstairs. And everything about that hits people differently. But you go down there and you look at something that should be a hook and ladder fire truck, and it ain't freaking recognizable. You have no idea whether you're looking at the back end of it or the front of it because the towers fell on it. And it fell on all the guys that were in it, and they fell on all the guys that were running up into the
worst
tower.
Possible death ever. Have you ever seen a movie Buried?
Yeah.
I can't watch that movie.
Right.
I refuse to watch that movie because being stuck or in a closed area, that is my greatest fear. I think I will bite my own tongue off and kill myself.
And that's the closest I've ever come to being near something called war, but at least I know it's not something we ever want to do if we can help it. It's just something that should be avoided at absolutely all costs.
And you know what, Steph, I will say this. I'm optimistic that that's how the majority of people feel, and
I hope so.
I don't think that's the direction we're going.
I really hope so.
I have a feeling this is going to be a very good year, but I want to go into Artist Alley Shopping Network.
Oh yeah.
Because I think what you're doing on there is really fantastic. I really need to get Max, my son.
Oh yeah,
definitely. So that he could practice. It just his schedules, and I like barely see him right now. I'm always
and the whole point is if you get Max on there, grab a piece of paper yourself. Chuck drew with us last week. The whole point is even artists have done it with us, like real comic artists have done it with us because it's fun. The whole point is the first show I did it on because everybody always goes, you know, like Instagram. I'll go to Instagram right now and I'll get like 37 messages, which I appreciate. Oh my God, you're so talented. Oh, that's amazing what you do. But here's the thing. Anybody can do what I do if you do it. You know, like if you apply yourself to it and draw every day, like I used to do for fun, and then I used to do it for fan art, and now I do it for business, you know, for a business to make money off of it. If you do it all the time, you'll get good at it. And you might even be, if you have something that really appeals to you and you pay attention to style and you pivot your style as you're going, then you might even be able to create something unique. And so my whole thing with the You Can Draw thing is grab a pencil and a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be fancy. Your big comic artist uses Ticonderoga 2.5s. I'm not bringing out any special tools that you can't get at Staples. So the paper that I'm drawing on and the pencil that I'm using, these aren't special tools and they're not expensive. So if you want to draw and have fun, come on my show, last half hour, we're going to draw something. It'll be fun. It may not be perfect, but that's all right. That's not the point. The point is that you have fun trying to do it. And every time you do it, hey, Wendy's here. Yay, Wendy. So you'll get better at doing it. I'm horrendous, by the way, for promoting on these live shows.
That's why I brought you on here.
Because now I feel guilty because Wendy's on here and I've got stuff on her Kickstarter.
No,
right
go
now.
ahead. Wendy.
No, but I don't do that. I always tell people, oh, I'm on Kickstarters. Check my social media. You'll see. Yeah. No, we're on the Naughty Fairies Online Comic Con. And I got a couple covers on there.
Sorry. Mike, what's up, buddy? Sorry.
Yeah, Mike and Trish started with notebook paper. Notebook paper works. The lines tell you a little bit of the scale of the paper. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what you drew on in grade school.
So this is fantastic. So this already kind of tells us what you're doing on Artist Alley Shopping Network. You're building confidence within the people who are hanging out.
I want people to love art. I love art. I love people who love my art. I want people to love art and not see it as some mystical thing that only a couple people are gifted with. That's BS. Anybody can do it. And I get it. You know what? You might not draw really well because you have a full-time job and you have this and you have a family and you don't get to spend time drawing. I was doing it around my executive job, which is 55 hours a week. So I was getting better. It took me longer to get better because I could only do it part-time. But if you want to do it part-time, yeah, it'll take a couple of years, but you can get really good at drawing just if you stop thinking of it as something you can't do and start thinking of something you might just want to do.
You know, it's interesting because I used to draw. I still draw layouts, and I can show you. I can show you a little bit of my artwork, and hopefully, it won't be anything that's like.
Everybody, get your claim comments ready. You're about to claim a piece of Onrie original art.
Well, it's not anything I printed up, but
are you selling it? Are you selling it?
Well, I will be selling it once it's completed.
It's not on paper. These people want paper, man.
Yeah, I know. Everybody wants paper. You're all spoiled with your paper and everything. But
right now, you could be selling the first piece of Onrie original art.
It could be. Well, this is not the first by any means.
Go ahead. Up. Tom Andrews claimed it. Whatever it is.
Clam. He clammed it.
Clammed it. That happened on our last show. Somebody typed claim way too fast. Autocorrect did it to him.
Autocorrect, and I guess I'll just print it off 8.5 by 11. But here's
no, you got to do it. Where's the original? We want the pencils, man. We want to see the scratches.
Well, it's the page has been illustrated already, but basically
cool.
what this is it's Castle Osaka, and I had to get it from the right perspective. Now I'm not an artist, so I can't really like sit there and draw out every detail. Right. And the idea is that the story, the actual sequentials are happening within, the frame of Castle Osaka. Right. And I don't believe this was the final version. I think we tweaked it some more. But see, I tried to put like a little bit of detail in the pictures over here. And of course, and here's the thing. It's really just a time issue for me because I don't have the patience.
No, I know what you're saying.
That's the hard part. That's where I think what artists do is just like that's
and the problem is people freak out because of how quick I am, and I don't do horrendously long layouts. You'd probably take 10 times as long to lay something out as I do, because I have literally drawn thousands upon thousands of pinup art. It's 1 year on eBay alone, I sold something like 700 pieces. So I've literally drawn thousands of pinup art. So if you tell me you want blah, it takes me 2 seconds. I do a very minimal line art, rough out or whatever. So it's easy for me because I've done it so many times. So it'll take you forever and you don't have the patience for it. But if you did it more often, you would use 3 lines where you're now using 12. You would draw it once instead of erasing and drawing it 5 times. You know what I mean?
I hate it. I had to do a spread the other day. And it took me like 30 hours and I just don't have the
Dude, 30 hours is 30 pieces of art.
I know. I agree with you. And but hearing what you have to say is so inspiring to me because you're right. If I put more time into it, maybe maybe I'd get a little bit better. Maybe I'd figure out how to add more detail. But
And you know what? For somebody like you who has to do layouts, maybe you'd figure out how to put less in. You know what I mean? Like Tom Hutchinson made fun of me because the first roughs I ever sent to him were like elaborate, you know? Like he's like, it's a rough out. You don't have to put so much detail in. But at the time, especially for the first few with Tom, I'm trying to sell him on an idea. So I want to illustrate that idea as much as possible so he doesn't have to imagine. You know, as I've gotten to work with certain publishers like Wendy or Jim or Lewis, I don't even have to rough out half the time what I'm doing for them because they already know from what I'm saying what it's going to look like. But with Tom, you know, and with Ron the first time, and even Joe Buku, with the first time I did covers with these people, I kind of had to make the rough out a lot more detailed. And now with Joe Buku, he just says, give me this cover. Wendy says, well, how about something like this? And I don't have to go through a lot of complex things. So in the beginning, you got to put a lot more detail, like on that layout you're showing. You have to put more detail in because you're trying to convey a message of like what you want the scene to be. As you get better at drawing, you can do it with less, you know?
You've inspired me to at least give it a shot. And
Sure.
you know, I honestly, I want to come on your show now. So can you tell us when is your show?
The show's Thursday, 8 p.m. on the Artist Alley Shopping Network.
So 8 p.m. on Eastern time?
Eastern time.
Eastern, folks. So that's 7 p.m. Central.
Dude, I can't figure those things out.
Yeah, I figured it out. It's 5 p.m. It's the same time. 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m.
Yes.
7 p.m. Central,
There you go.
8 p.m. Eastern. So those are the 4 time slots. Artist Alley Shopping Network. And
We draw at 9:30. Traditionally, what I'll do is I will offer quick claim sketches throughout the week that I'll finish up on the show. I'm not sure this Thursday. I may have to crack open the vaults because I'm moving and I've got comps that I'm sitting on. So less comps to move.
oh, guys, you're seeing this here first.
So I may be opening the vault on Thursday. I have to run it by Carrie because she's the manager. So if you missed out on covers because you didn't know I was on those Kickstarters a long time ago, I think on Thursday what I'll actually be doing is selling books before 9:30. 9:30 will still do You Can Draw because there's a little girl named Chloe out in San Diego who draws with us every week, and I couldn't disappoint her. So that'll be third. Oh, look at that. There's that Vince Hernandez. I think I only have a couple of those left. That was a charity cover. We did that one entirely for charity. All the money went to healthcare workers at the start of COVID.
That's fantastic.
But normally I draw on the show, and then at 9:30, grab a pencil and a piece of paper. Hey, I get it. Some people can't watch a whole live show, and you can even go back and watch it on video. But the people in comments are hysterical. My fans are hysterical in comments. So you definitely want to tune into the live show if you can. But if not, it's the last half hour of the show. If you got kids, definitely show up at the last half hour of the show because the first part of the show, you got Russell and Lewis and people like that dropping all kinds of risque comments, which, you know, I love them. But at 9:30, they all know kids are on. No naughty talk.
Put your pie hole. We got kids in the house.
No boobies, no naughty talk. The kids are on. And then we just play around with drawing. So normally I would draw before that, the sketches that I did through the week. But this week, like I said, I might have to open the vault. So anybody who's watching now probably now knows to tune in. So.
Well, Steph, we've had a lot of people watching. And I hate to do this, but we got to wrap this up because
we got it.
I got to get to the post office. I
understand.
And honestly, man, I feel like this is just the beginning. I have so much respect and appreciation for you.
Oh, dude, I think you're amazing, man.
No, I think you're amazing, dude. I'm actually going to go and draw. You have inspired me to come on your show and to draw with you. I'm going to try and make it happen with Max this Thursday.
Definitely.
And this is just me being completely honest. It's really just a matter of making sure that I can block off that time for him. But I think his mom, mom will agree. I think his mom will agree because otherwise, what would we be doing? We'd be playing video games.
Right.
You know, it's we're going to come and draw with you. So if you guys are around on Thursday, there is a 98.9 chance that I'm going to be on Steph's show drawing.
That would be awesome. Now, you got to promise to show it off when you're done.
I will. Absolutely.
Good.
I show
That's,
up right now.
that's amazing. All these people draw these pictures and then they're afraid to show them because I guess they
Hey,
think it's
sure.
not that good. But the thing is, it's good if you did it. If you sat down and drew and tried to draw something, you just beat out 90% of people who wouldn't even try.
Yeah.
So it's going to be good.
Yeah. So that
It's
they
going
say
to be
that
good.
they don't have to do it. Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. Well, that's excellent, Steph. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for this has been so insightful and such a great testament to what Live with Onrie has been about. All the information that you shared from a business standpoint, from a creative standpoint, has just been it's
a great show. I love your show.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I mean,
you make it fun. You know, in a lot of ways, there are people that I want to work with in comics. Chuck was one of them. I threw that idea of a cover to Chuck because I didn't know Chuck. I had no interaction with him. Saw him on a live show. Saw him again on another live show, and I said, I got to work with this guy. Same thing, Onrie. I saw you on a live show. I like what you talk about. I like the way you talk about people. I like the way you talk about fans. I watch the comments on your show, and I see the way the fans respond to you, and I say to myself, that's a guy I want to work with. And that's what happens.
No one else wants to work with me, so that's fantastic. Finally,
no, seriously, man. You're a good guy, and I want to work with good people in comics. That's the fun part. Well, like Wendy and Chuck and you and Jim and Lewis. These are guys that people that I can see from the fan interactions that they have, that they like people. And I like working with people who like people.
Dude. You and I are gonna chat as soon as we.
Oh crap! Joshua's in the room.
Who's in the room?
See, Joshua read the ticket.
All right, Joshua.
He says I won't go to Canada because he's afraid Sarah, one of our super fans, she's a friend of mine by now. This is the thing. Everybody who's a fan of mine takes about 5 minutes to become a friend. Like before they get over their shyness or whatever, then they shoot me a message. And then next thing you know, they're slamming me in comments and knocking on me in messages and stuff like that because I'm sarcastic, and they come right back at me. So Sarah's one of those where it took us 5 minutes to become best of friends in messages. And that's the best part about comics is the friends you make in it.
Especially right now, and how much more we're connected. It's hard for me at first not to have that direct engagement.
Right.
But then after some time passes, you're like, I can see people's comments.
Are you getting used to it? Because in other words, you made friends at that convention table, but then they would go away.
I never made friends at.
No.
Well, I did, but not the same way because I'd sell you my book. You go,
and then you might talk for 10 minutes, and then they would go away, and you never see them again.
Yeah.
Here, the cool thing is you could see them.
Yeah, and before that, there was a major disconnect. I think that's what also affected my performance on Kickstarters and everything. So Everything you said today really resonated with me because it's like you got to be out there, you got to engage people, and you got to respond to them, and you got to show them that you're there for them and that you want to be there for them.
Yep. And once you start interacting with them, and they can tell you like them, and then it becomes a friendship instantly online.
Absolutely.
The shame is I would love to go and see Sarah in Wisconsin and go to a restaurant and hang out and do things like that. Can't do that anyway now. So since I can't do that anyway now, I'm getting as much friendship as I can out of the online side of it.
Well, I can, however, because I'm only 30-minute drive and I'm in Wisconsin. Less than 30, 25 minutes. Because I'm right at the tip of where Illinois and Wisconsin.
Right. Before I forget.
Yeah.
Are you doing any Kickstarters this year?
Yeah, I'm doing a bunch of them.
Okay, cool.
I haven't even gotten to the point of planning for it yet because, we're doing a Kickstarter for the next Eastern Shin book that's coming out.
Oh, cool! And
I have a new series called War Lion, which is what I've been working on for the last.
You know what? This is the one thing that interests me, absolutely fascinates me about Kickstarters. I did a Kickstarter with Wendy, for the Steampunk Fairies card set. And I projected because I'm pessimistic about business situations. I always underestimate, and then I'm pleasantly surprised if it does. I figured we'd do about 3. She's more optimistic. She thought it would be more like 5. Carrie, who we did it with, my wife, was probably more in the 5 crowd. And then it made 12. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
If I made 12 grand on Kickstarter, I would be over the moon. I would just be so happy.
On a card set. 12 grand.
That's incredible.
And here's the real kicker. I had to do some OA for the stretch goals and stuff like that. The art for the cards was already done, so zero cost. So everything could go into the stretch goals. But anyway, I've done one Kickstarter. I've worked with several creators on their Kickstarters. It is amazing the huge disparity in thought patterns to people who launch Kickstarters. In other words, like Instagram, it's a mystery wrapped in a riddle with enigma. And I think creators, it's my opinion that creators need to share a little bit more how they design their Kickstarters for success. And I think, it's kind of, everybody kind of keeps it close to the vest, but there are creators out there like, say, Chuck or Wendy, who are more than happy to offer their opinions on Kickstarters. And I think that's why a lot of Kickstarters fail, because everybody thinks they can do it and everybody does it differently and nobody's paying attention. This is what staggers my mind, the business side of my mind. Remember when you were in business, Onrie? There is freaking data there. There is so much data on Kickstarter that you could be mining and gleaning and using to plan your Kickstarter. And so many of these Kickstarters are like a Hail Mary. Like, I need 200 backers at $20 a book for the basic book to make my goal. All right? Tell me where your 200 backers are. And they have no clue. They have no idea where those 200 backers are coming from. Oh, well, I got X amount. Yeah, you got 50 people who follow you on social media who will definitely back your book. Where are you getting 150 other people? And it's amazing because on Kickstarters, people don't treat it like a business. It's a goddamn business. It either makes it or fails if you don't plan it. Like the steampunk card set. I knew about how many backers we could get. I didn't realize how deeply they would invest in, how much more they would pledge. I anticipated the lowest average pledge, and they obviously pledged a lot more. But then here's the other thing. The month before that Kickstarter launched, I joined steampunk groups on Facebook. I joined card groups, poker card groups on Facebook in order to promote the project. I got booted off about 12 groups because I was posting constantly about the Kickstarter, but we brought in people who had no interest in comics, had no interest in our project other than it was steampunk related or it was poker related because it was a card set. And people don't get that. Like, you've got to dig deep, do the research, and be prepared to succeed. Like, you have to put everything in place to succeed. And it just absolutely blows my mind sometimes that people who launch Kickstarters have no idea what they're going to make.
Well, you see, this time I'm approaching it from a different angle. Mm-hmm. The angle I'm approaching it from is I'm using what I do as a dealer through live sales to really help me prepare for Kickstarter. Right. Because at that point, like, again, I remember Tom Hutchinson saying this on Phil Locklear's show back in September. Keep hitting that launch button.
Yep. Keep
freaking hitting that launch button, because you're going to, every time you do it, you will learn something. You will get more people. You will have more exposure. You will have more stuff out there. And I'm taking my time with it because Essential is not one of those books that I could just crap out a Kickstarter for.
Right.
And if I'm going to give you something that I created, it's got to be my best work. It's got to be something that is new. Like, I thought about doing Kickstarters as of October and just doing a Kickstarter for like a Yusushin special box set, and I throw just random stuff in there. But the problem is that the boxes themselves cost a lot of money to produce.
Right. And
now not only do I have to fund the box, the manufacturing of the box, but am I actually making money if I'm not? Am I moving forward?
Right.
Am I making money? Am I making it possible to get the next issue out there? Am I making it possible for me to finish what I started? And the answer was no. And sometimes that's the case. That's another thing Tom said is, does your project need to exist?
Right.
And that's a really important question that I think everybody needs to ask. And this is how I write. This is why I can't be a freelance writer, is because I write with the delete button.
Yeah.
I don't write until I stop hitting the delete, or I'm not finished until I stop hitting that delete button.
Right.
That's just how it is, you know?
Yeah, but it's just that I always feel bad because I see people who launch a Kickstarter and their goal is 5,000 or whatever. And you know, it's a couple days left and they've made 2,000. And I'm like, how, the question that I would ask in business, and the question, you know, because granted I was in human resources, but what I was asking was, how are your people equations going to meet the business needs that you say they're going to meet? Like, because you think they are, that's not a valid answer in business. You can't just think, you got to back it up with data or figures or what your plan is. You know what I mean? And so I see Kickstarters that don't succeed, and I'm always disappointed because I'm like, where was the background research that told you you were going to make $8,000 on this Kickstarter? Because you're not. So obviously you didn't. So, which is fine. It's a learning experience. But what is your plan to make that $8,000? What was, you know what I mean? Like, think of Shark Tank. You don't walk onto Shark Tank, stand in front of those 4 people and say, I'm going to make $8,000 on my Kickstarter without having some way to back it up. And what they're trying to see is there a business plan that says that $8,000 is doable? You know?
I think another thing they're trying to see is there money in it for us? Mm-hmm. Because, you know, they're looking at it from a business, and there's nothing wrong with looking at things like that, because, you know, as much as we love doing this, part of making it work, part of making it happen, right, is it being us either being able to make the time. Right. In order to make the time, you have to. This has to be your full-time thing. You know, like exactly. I don't think you could. I don't think you could be an efficient creator or dealer part-time. You have to. And if your Kickstarter makes $15,000, say, and your costs and everything else like that, you know, whatever it works out to, you also should be in some way with the profit paying for your time. You know what I mean? Absolutely.
You put time in. You would have gotten paid if you went to work at a job for the amount of time that you put into that comic, for the amount of time you built that Kickstarter. You should be getting compensated for that. And what I know you guys are all doing is, if you get $20,000 on your Kickstarter and you end up with a profit of whatever, $5,000, say, which is, if you really cut your corners, you could do that because the shipping is freaking killing you guys. But if you make X amount of dollars as your profit on a Kickstarter, you're putting it into your next book. That's what you're doing.
Well, no,
I know that. That's the thing. People got to understand that. You guys are breaking even if you're lucky on Kickstarter.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well,
it's paying for you to do what you want to do, but that's about it.
It's making it, and honestly, conventions were what paid for the book.
Yep.
So what I use Kickstarter for is to cover the print costs.
Yep.
That's it. So that as soon as this book hits the street, every copy is already paid for. It's done.
And that's what you should be doing, and that's what Kickstarter and comics. That's what it should be for, you know.
Well, I would like to see it. You know, I and this is what's great about the position and that I'm in is that I have there's a wellspring of people who are doing this and doing it well that you can always talk to and get advice from, and what worked for them may not necessarily be what works for me, and vice versa. You know, and it's like what you were saying. It's like you have to do your research. You have to know your market, so to speak, and whether or not those people and it's a tricky thing, you know. It's harder to see to go and do that research and really find out like how many people are reading books about Asian military history,
right?
You know, as opposed to maybe something that's, you know, just more general, like, you know, I don't know, like.
And again, what it is everybody looks for the easier answers. You know, they're used to, if they have a problem, they Google it and they look up an easy answer, and Google will give you the shorter answer usually. Kickstarter, like Instagram, is complex. There is no one answer. There are multiple answers. Some of them apply to you, some of them don't. And some of them you can take information from those answers and apply it in a different method. So, you know what I mean? It's the complexity that I think throws people. People, you know, that are launching Kickstarters and have done Kickstarters like you have realized there's a lot of moving parts. And you can't be an expert on all of the moving parts. Oh, hey, Trish. You can't be an expert on all of the moving parts, but you got to try and be an expert on as many of them as you can, or at least knowledgeable on how they all operate.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Steph, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no,
I gotta get to shipping. It's been phenomenal talking to you, and
it's been great.
This is the first time. Next time I want to have you on the show, we're gonna talk And we're
Awesome.
going to be selling and chatting and continuing this
That's going to be fun.
conversation. Yes.
All right.
So guys, thank you so much for tuning in for
Thank you for having me.
episode. Yes. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Steph, do me a favor. Hang out backstage. I'll be right there.
Okay.
I'm just going to close this out real quick.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much again. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Absolutely. That hour and 25 minutes flew by. Guys, thank you so much. And I just want to let you all know it's been such a pleasure doing Live with Onrie. We're not going away with the show, though. I will be back next week. We're going to be doing virtual signings with Onrie. We're rebranding. And I'm not going to use legacy numbering. We're going to go back to 0 on it. And I couldn't imagine a better person to bring on here than Steph to finish this out, because he has basically shown me a new path too, which is going to help me with everything that we're building on with virtual signings with Onrie. So you guys will see the first episode of that go live hopefully next Tuesday. I have a creator that I want to reach out to. I just got their book in, so we're going to work on that, and hopefully next Tuesday we will have that creator. If not, I'm going to work on somebody else. But either way, we're going to have episodes. Lots of things going on right now. I got to run over to the post office before it closes so I can ship out your books. Mike and Trish, you got packages. David's got packages. I gotta get these books out to you guys. Otherwise, you never get anything from me, and that's not what this is about. So I will see you guys later. Thank you so much for making Live with Onrie so special and wonderful and a great learning experience for me. We're going to take it to the next step with virtual signings with Onrie. I will see you guys next week. And until that time comes, onward to victory.